Hello and welcome to Tracy Momi Reads. Today I'm going to be continuing a video that I started last week. Books that I've read A through Z. Last week we got through A through M. So today we're going to finish up with N through Z. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, N, The Notebook by Nicholas Sparks. The Notebook, I read this a long time ago, well ahead of the movie that came out. And it is one of the few books that I've read where I think that the movie adaptation, dare I say, may have been better than the book. That it was really good casting on that, very good acting, and the way that the cinematography, I like how they were going back and forth with the older couple and the younger couple. Seeing it visually was more than what I had imagined in my mind. So The Notebook, if you haven't read that one, that's a good one to check out. Oh, One Day by David Nichols. This was one of the first books that I ever threw across the room. I threw this one across the room because that ending, like, be prepared. You know I normally talk about how, they should have done X, Y, Z with the ending. I didn't even expect this ending, would have never thought that should be an ending. And like, after I was able to ruminate on it, I kind of understood why the author did what they did, but I was so mad. I was so mad. It follows a story of a couple who they met, I think, in college, and there were all these near misses with them being romantic partners, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. But it was really good. I think there's been a movie made of with Anne Hathaway, but I haven't seen the movie. All right, P, Played by Dana Davidson. This is actually a YA book, and I remember reading a few young adult books back in the day because I had young nieces and I was trying to see if they were suitable for them. And I was kind of like, this was a cute little story. From what I recall, there was a boy who, on a dare from his friends, there are so many tropes like this where you have a dare where the popular person tries to befriend or date an unpopular person or a person that the people don't think is attractive, and they end up really falling for the person. So that's what that story was about. Q, Queen Sugar by Natalie Bazile, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. Again, this was another book that I read ahead of the series that became wildly popular on the Oprah Winfrey Network. When I tell y'all that book, it was so good, but the adaptation is such a departure from the book. I haven't watched a single episode. I just couldn't bring myself to watch it because I'm just how is that possible? I think the only thing that kind of, a couple of the characters are the same as far as their names, and I know it's a sugarcane business, but in the book, I'll just say one thing. I'm not going to give away any spoilers in case you want to read the book, but she had a daughter in the book. In the series, she has a son. And in the book, one of the culminating events was the Queen Sugar Parade, and her daughter got to be in the parade. So I don't know. It's just weird how they changed that whole story. Characters that died in the book didn't die in the TV show. And I know you need more material for a series, but I really enjoyed the book and wish they maybe just did a movie or something to kind of stay closer to what the book was about. Anywho, R, Redemption Song by Bertice Berry. Oh, this was another book that I read many eons ago. There's a couple, and I don't know if I think they were at a bookstore, if I'm not mistaken, or some type of antique store, somewhere where they came across these letters that had been written between this man and woman during slavery, I think, and then after slavery, they kind of kept in touch. The story does take place present day, in the book from back when it was written, but they're going through these letters, are written back in time. So there's a lot of flashbacks, and then there's this twist that happens where the two of them may be connected through those letters. So it was a very sweet, very quick read. Just like a love story. It was very poignant. Yeah, that was a really good book. Let's see. Silver Sparrow by Tayari Jones. And this was the first book I ever read by her. I enjoyed it way more than An American Marriage. This book tells the story of two girls who become friends, and they find out they have something really wild in common. I don't even want to give y'all the twist, but they have something in common that they never knew about. And they're like two girls kind of like of the same age that become really good friends. That was wild. That was a wild book, but it was very well told, very well written, and I really enjoyed that one. T. Okay. I have to go ahead and go with Twilight. I don't know if y'all can see the books back there. I think I've talked about this ad nauseum. It's crazy how, in hindsight, or after the fact, or however you want to say it, like when the book has gotten so, a lot of people have trashed it, and talked about it, and about Bella not really being a heroine, and, and all this, yada, yada, yada. A lot of people who were really into the books back then kind of want to disassociate themselves from it. And, it's understandable, because there are a lot of books that I've read, over the years that don't stand the test of time. I went back and read a book with a book club that I had read back in the 90s. And I was like, I thought that book was so scandalous back then. This is nothing, But Twilight is one of those books. I think what made it so addictive and it caught the attention of so many people, it wasn't so much like, oh, this was the best book ever written about vampires. Anne Rice, Interviewed the Vampire. There's Dracula books. There's a lot of other books, right? But this was like modern day. It was like the detail that she gave, all of the minor characters outside of Edward and Bella, they like had fully developed stories. You knew how they became vampires, why they were in the lives that they were, in currently. And she took some weird liberties making the vampires sparkle and all that. But, it spawned some very successful sequels, movies, and, it gave y'all the Batman, Robert Pattinson, so can't complain too much. But I enjoyed it. And for a moment, I kind of got sucked in the vortex of a little fan fiction as well. And there are some stories out there, y'all. Maybe I'll have to do another video about that. There are some fan fiction stories that totally eclipse, see what I did there, the original stories. They are just so well written. And I know that a lot of those people that wrote some, fan fiction stories actually went on to become published authors. But it was just a whole thing, and I got caught up in the hysteria, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I was a twihard for a little second, old as I was. But anyway, moving right along. The Undomestic Goddess by Sophie Kinsella. I have read a lot of her books, like especially back, when she was writing them kind of back to back. I guess this was the early 2000s, maybe. The Undomestic Goddess is a book about this woman who kind of just leaves her life as a high-powered, corporate worker, and she gets on a train and goes out to the countryside, and she's looking to take a break because she's so overwhelmed, and she gets mistaken for I think this family is like looking for a housekeeper or a nanny or something, and she is just as undomesticated as they come, but she says that, yeah, I'm the person, and she gets the job, and of course she can't do anything. But from what I remember, it was a really cute story, and just kind of spoke to how sometimes the simplest things in life bring you the most happiness. Veronica Wants to Die by Paulo Coelho. Paulo Coelho. Hopefully I'm saying that right. He is the author of The Alchemist. And in Veronica Wants to Die, this book was about a girl who had tried numerous times to commit suicide, and she's eventually placed in an institution. And throughout her time there, there are other people there too that I don't think all of them were trying to commit suicide. I mean, it's just an institution for people that everybody thinks is crazy, or, they have mental issues or whatever. And through her time there, initially she's still like she wants to die and she just doesn't think life is worth living. And through the characters of the people that she meets, she kind of has a change of heart. But, it's like, be careful what you wish for, because it's like now maybe she can't even control when she dies. So that's all I'm going to say without giving away too much. But that was a really introspective book, which the majority of his books are. He always takes you on a journey with a lesson to be learned, much like a fable or something like that. W, We Should Hang Out Sometime by Josh Sundquist. I got this book, I think I want to say I got it from the dollar store. It was another one of the dollar store reads. This book is based on actual true events, which I couldn't actually believe that it was an actual true story. This guy, the author, Josh Sundquist, he is trying to figure out at the time when he writes this book, he's single, and he's just trying to figure out why none of the relationships he had, ever worked out. And he kind of revisits them by going back to the women that he dated and, women that he had asked for dates, and just kind of asked him, like, what was wrong with me? Like, why didn't this work or whatever? And he just kind of learned some enlightening things about himself along the way. But it's a really interesting story, and just thinking about just kind of revisiting your past to see maybe where you went wrong and how people were perceiving you and how you can be a better person in the future. X. The only book I could think of that even had an X in it was Malcolm X. So the autobiography of Malcolm X is told to Alex Haley. This book should be required reading in every history class across the world. I know they're out there banning and burning books like this is flipping the 1800s or some shit, but you cannot erase history, okay? Period, point blank. No matter what you try to do. And let me tell you something that I have learned in my life. The more you try to make something seem like it's like taboo or off limits, the more people are going to be interested in it, And I just don't understand this big push to take things that actually happened out of, for people to learn about it. Like, that's not the place to learn about it. When else are they going to learn about it? You're teaching history anyway. Why even teach history in school if you're going to edit it or it's going to be abridged? It's mind-boggling. Anyway, the autobiography of Malcolm X obviously is the story of Malcolm X, his life story. And a lot of people, I think there's a lot of misconception that he hated white people or something, because he was a Muslim or because of the way that he talked back then. But it was a whole different world. The 60s, oh my God, that was like the precipice. Black people had endured slavery and come to a point where, like, in the 60s, all the way from the 1800s to the 1960s, where really they still did not have a lot of freedoms and were still being mistreated. And, we could argue that some of that shit still goes on today. But he just spoke out he was a black man. What I don't know what people expected him to do. Say it was okay, all the stuff that was going on and all the segregation and all of the brutality and things. Like, he was just supposed to be okay with it. Really strange to me how people want to treat you a certain way, and I'm not even talking about Malcolm X, I'm just talking about in general. People want to treat you badly and want you to accept it and take it and not really, stand up for yourself, not talk bad about them. That's insanity. Anyway, off the soapbox. Why? The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. The Year of Yes. This was a really good book. Again, this was a nonfiction book. And Shonda Rhimes, she is the creator of Grey's Anatomy and Scandal and How to Get Away with Murder. She's a television mogul writer. And in this book, she talked about how, she was very introverted, and as she got, success and money and things like that, and she would get like all of this attention and invitations and different things. She never went anywhere. She never wanted to do anything. And one year she just decided that whatever somebody asked her, within reason, to do, or if she was invited somewhere or whatever, she was going to say yes. It was her year where she was going to say yes and take chances and not be so afraid of what people thought, or not being able to fit in or whatever. And she just, kind of chronicles that, and it's very eye-opening. And I think a lot of times, a lot of us do that, like we say no. I mean, sometimes like you just don't feel like it. And it is 1000% okay to say no if you don't want to do something. No is a complete sentence. But if you find yourself always saying no, you may want to just examine your reasons, and reading her book may give you some insight to that. Okay, finally, Z, the Zaire, or Zaire? I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. Again, this is another book. I've read a lot of Paulo Coelho's books, and this is another book by him. It's kind of in the vein almost of The Alchemist, because it's like a pilgrimage that this man goes on. And from what I hear, this is like kind of semi-autobiographical, because the guy in the book is a writer and quasi-celebrity, very well known, and he goes on a journey to find his missing wife. And I don't know if that actually happened to the author's wife or not, but a lot of people say it's kind of like close to something that actually happened. So now I'm curious, because at the time that I read the book, I didn't know that happened. When I was doing some research, trying to pull together some titles, and was going back through books that I read, I came across a note about that. So now I'm curious. I'm gonna have to go back and check that out and see if that really happened. That's bizarre. Anyway, those are just some of the books that I have read, A through Z. If you have read any of the books, or if you have any questions about any of the books, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like this video. Thank you to all the subscribers out there, and to everyone who stops by the channel and you haven't subscribed. Although I wish you really would just go ahead and subscribe. I mean, it's obvious you like what you're seeing, what you're hearing, because you keep coming back. Thanks, guys. Y'all enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.